morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we've got a Groudon to look at, and I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, you know how Groudon is kind of like Kyogre? Well, this is Kyogre. Like, I showed you Kyogre the other day. This is Kyogre. As in, same HP, same retreat cost, same weakness, same first attack, same damage in the second attack, although a very slightly different effect. Quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, this is literally just the same Pokemon, but as a fighting type. They've really gone all out to make Kyogre and Groudon pairs here. Though I wish they tried a little bit less hard here, because it's got a retreat cost of 3. And Groudon always has a retreat cost of 4. Like, the last time Groudon didn't have a retreat cost of 4 was the one from Legends Awakened. Yeah, that was a while ago at this point, ladies and gentlemen. And that's kind of annoying because it means you don't get to use buff padding, and it means that you don't get to use Pokemaniac to search it out, so that's actually kind of annoying if I'm honest with you. But it is a fighting type. Fighting type is awesome. Fighting type means you get to use Diancie Prism Star to do an extra 20 damage. It means weakness on Dedenne and Pikachu and Zekrom. Bearing in mind that Pikachu and Zekrom is one of the best decks in the format right now. So there's quite a lot to love in that regard. And don't forget that you can use Martial Arts Dojo if you're using basic fighting energy to do an extra 10 damage, 40 if you're behind on prizes. And don't forget that you can use Black Belt if you're behind on prizes to reduce the attack cost by 1. Yeah, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it's a really, really good time to be a fighting Pokemon. So that's kind of awesome. And to be fair, it's a good time to be a water Pokemon as well, so these are potentially the two best types. Certainly they're hitting the two best weaknesses. Now 130 HP is good. It means it can take a hit from something like Buzzwole or Silvally. Big difference between 120 and 130. There's a lot of Pokemon that hit 120. Having 130 HP means you're going to survive a bunch of those hits. That's pretty awesome. And the weakness to grass, honestly, I don't really care. Look, you got Celebi and Venusaur, but it's either not going to KO you even with the weakness with the first attack, or it's going to KO you regardless of the weakness using the second attack, so don't worry your pretty little heads about it. Cool. But what does it actually do? Now, the first attack is not exactly the same as Kyogre. For 1 colourless energy, you may attach 2 basic fighting energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. Very similar to Kyogre, but Kyogre attached from the discard pile. Now, there is a chance I'm wrong about this. I'm fairly sure I'm not. David is asleep because it's 2:30 Tokyo time at the moment, but it's extremely similar to Kyogre's attack. But when I compared it to a Japanese scan of Welder being the most prominent card at the moment that attaches from your hand, it matched up really quite nicely. So I'm going to say I'm like 90% sure this is what it does. Plus, it's clearly supposed to be Kyogre, but it's clearly not attaching from the discard. Just take my word for it. This is what it does. So you get to attach 2 fighting energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. This is great, because one of the things I've said about fighting Pokemon a lot lately is, yeah, there's just no way to accelerate energy. And look, Black Belt is lovely. If you're behind on prizes, Black Belt is great for reducing the attack cost. And let's not forget, we've got the Miss Magius that just came out in Unbroken Bonds, which will put you behind on prizes while allowing you to draw until you got 7 cards in your hand. Yes, good stuff going on here. But the fact of the matter is, there are far too many fighting Pokemon we've had lately that would be good, except they're too gosh darned expensive. Well, what we can do now is we can take Kyogre and go, well, hang on a second. Maybe it's finally worth it now. So let's take another look at Marshadow and Machamp, a card which I said was good, but without any energy acceleration, we couldn't really take it particularly seriously. Well, the 270 HP is really quite nice. And I like the revenge attack. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack during their last turn, you do 90 more damage. And given that it's for a fighting and a colourless and it's only really good after you had a Pokemon KO'd, a Pokemon gets KO'd, you go down on prizes, you then hit 120 for essentially 1 energy because you're playing Black Bout. And yes, that is the exact right amount of damage to KO a Pikachu and Zekrom. Cool. But then free energy 160 is a bit expensive, free energy 200, but 4 energy 200, and if you would be KO'd by damage during your next turn, you go down to 10 HP rather than being knocked out. That's pretty ridiculous. And yeah, sure, maybe your opponent's playing a Shrine of Punishment, and if they are, then they will go down in between turns. But if they're not, you're actually going to save yourself a KO here. But I said, look, I love the GX attack. I love that you can do 200 damage and then potentially not get KO'd next turn, but come on. It's not realistic to get 4 fighting energy on. Now it is. Now this is 2 attacks from Groudon. And that's doable. The thing is, when we looked at Kyogre, we said, look, Naganadel, Quagsire. Naganadel will get energy on the field, Quagsire to accelerate it. So I said, as much as Kyogre was quite nice for adding a bit of extra energy onto the field, really, you could do without it. I essentially said it was a nice one-off to chuck into some water decks. That's not the case here, ladies and gentlemen. This is, oh my goodness, we've actually got a chance here. We've actually got a card which can accelerate energy to fighting Pokemon, which we've not really had for a while. I mean, people used to legitimately use Carbink Break because it was about the best option we had. This is better than that. Is it enough? I'm not 100% sure. It means that you're taking turns in the early game just getting energy onto the field. But remember, we're losing all of our good gusting options like Guzma, so it's much less likely your opponent's going to be Guzmaing up and either KOing or trying to whittle down bigger Pokemon so that by the time they get into the active and start attacking, they're either gone or near as gosh darn it. That's less likely to happen without stuff like Guzma. So this might actually work. Incidentally, Marshadow and Machamp becomes a great option here because we've got Tag Switch. Tag Switch lets you move 2 basic energy from one of your tag team Pokemon to another Pokemon. And what's amazing about this is that, hey, remember that GX attack where you would be KO'd but now you're not being KO'd? Yeah. That means that you're going to have a Pokemon with 10 HP remaining that you really don't want to leave on the field, and you certainly don't want any energy on. Now you can move it off. Although incidentally, Tag Switch is any energy, not just basic. I'll give you one more example because we don't have time to really get into too much here, but the Terrakion from Sun and Moon 11. The one that's going to be coming out in Unified Minds. If all of your bench Pokemon are damaged, you do 200 for free energy. So as soon as you attack with Groudon and put 2 energy on this, you can put a third down, or a Black Bout, or whatever, and you are ready to roll. We now need to look back at some of these fighting Pokemon and go, hey, remember how we said they were too expensive? Yeah, maybe they're not anymore. That's what really excites me about Groudon. Now, there is a second attack here, but I'm going to be honest, I'm much less excited. 2 fighting, 1 colourless energy, 130 damage, just like Kyogre, except instead of discarding energy, you cannot use this attack next turn. Actually, shout out to the lovely Joe from Cerebi.net who gave me a heads up about this one. It's good. It's fine. I think we've got other fighting attackers I'd rather have, like, for instance, Terrakion. Or if you're getting free energy onto a Pokemon, you could always get those free energy onto something like Buzzwole. So it's kind of cool. Don't forget we've got Diancie Prism Star though. And don't forget we've got Martial Arts Dojo. So this 130 becomes 150 with Diancie. And then with Martial Arts Dojo becomes 160. But if you're behind on prizes, it becomes 190. And that's getting basic GXs. Stuff like Blacephalon, Ultra Necrozma. They are going down there quite nicely. It's cool. And of course, it's easily doing enough damage to get a Pikachu and Zekrom, even before you add any extra damage. It's nice. I don't want to belittle this second attack, it's a fine attack. I don't know if I'd rather have it over something like Terrakion or Buzzwole, if I'm honest with you. Well, to be fair, this gets a guaranteed damage where Buzzwole needs to do a bit of the old flipping. So maybe I would rather have free energy on a Groudon. It's still a decent attack, put it that way. It's still a really nice attack. Incidentally, Buzzwole can use stuff like Beast Energy to do extra damage, which Groudon can't, which means even if you're doing, say, 10 less damage, still potentially worth having a play around with. The point is, it's a decent non-GX attacker that does decent non-GX damage, except because it's a fighting Pokemon, you can actually be KOing GXs here. And obviously, when we get to the point where you're KOing GXs, yeah, of course those non-GXs are going down quite nicely. I don't know if we need it for the second attack, although it's a good attack, but we need it for the first attack. And even if you don't want to say that it's a great attack, and I can't argue too much if you don't, what do we have that's better? What other cards do we have that can allow us to accelerate energy reliably to fighting Pokemon? Not that many, ladies and gentlemen. Not that many. So I'm giving it 4 Wassies, and that might seem a bit over the top, and I don't really care. It's a really good card, and it's situational. If we had stuff like Quagsire, then I probably wouldn't care too much about this. But we don't. It's a fighting Pokemon. We need this. I like it. But I'd like to know what you think, ladies and gentlemen, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.